The views and opinions expressed today on Black Focus Radio are not the views and opinions of the station, its management, or its advertisers. Now, let's get ready to focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Well, what's happening? Welcome to the show, Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me. If you'd like to join the show, we'd love to have you. Hit me up on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. We owe you. I do owe you an apology. I should be posting these shows. I'm going to start doing more video. I keep saying that. I'll do a little, then I'll stop. But I will do a little more video these days, as well as we get ready to do some other things for the show. A lot of stuff to talk about today, of course. We're going to talk about the continuing conflict in Gaza and the Middle East. And I want to, and you know, the last show we did, we talked a lot about this. But as I've watched the coverage, it's been fascinating as it relates to the local media, okay? And the world media is doing this a little differently. Okay, the world media is doing a little differently. So we're gonna talk about that. I've been watching a lot of the coverage, and it's pretty clear that the American media are biased. They are. It's pretty clear, and I think they're angry that their propaganda is not working. I'm just saying. Their propaganda isn't working as you look around the world and even here in the United States. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk more about Sarah Huckabee Sanders. You know, I call her Jethrine Bodine. The fascinating thing about it is that she actually showed up at the UAPB homecoming. Really? I heard the results weren't that great. And the gall of you, by the way, considering you owe them close to $500 million. Okay? So we'll talk about all of that and more today on Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. But, you know, before we do anything, we got to christen the show as we do every day. It's called Black Facts. And you'll get why I'm playing this here in a moment. So why don't we go ahead and jump right into it?
Dynamic Black Facts. Our culture, our history, our people.
Concentrated on the transatlantic trade that featured American and European merchants. The British, Portuguese, Dutch, French, Spaniards, and Danes of Denmark were involved in the oceanic trade in African men, women, and children, which lasted from the mid-16th century until the 1860s. At this time, more than 15 million Africans were enslaved and transported to the Americas. Only 10 to 12 million would make it through the sea to face a life of harsh labor, discrimination, and abuse. While the transatlantic slave trade is well known, taught in school, another form of slavery that was just as devastating has been kept secret. This other trade remains largely ignored, and at times has even been treated as a taboo subject, despite being a key component of African history owing to the devastating impact it has had on the continent, its generations, and its people's way of life. In this video, we are going to talk about the Arab-Muslim slave trade. We will take a look at the trans-Saharan slave trade in particular, where Arabs would raid, capture, and enslave even fellow Arabs and Muslims just because they had black skin. How Arabs justified these deeds using verses from their holy scripture, and how the slave trade still exists today. Before we get right into the video, please smash the like button and subscribe to the channel to keep informed of our eye-opening black narrative. The Arab-Muslim slave trade, also known as the trans-Saharan trade or Eastern slave trade, is noted as the longest slave trade, having occurred for more than 1,300 years. while taking millions of Africans away from their continent to work in foreign lands in the most inhumane conditions. Scholars have christened it a veiled genocide, attributing the tagline to the most humiliating and near-death experience slaves were subjected to, from capture in slave markets to labor fields abroad and the harrowing journey in between. While official figures on the exact number of slaves captured from Africa in the Trans-Sahara trade are contested, most scholars put the estimate at about 9 million. Records of slave trading and transportation in the Sahara date back as far as the 3rd millennium BC during the reign of the Egyptian king Sneferu, who crossed the 4th cataract of the Nile into what is today modern Sudan, to capture slaves and send them north. These raids for prisoners of war, who subsequently became slaves, were a regular occurrence in the ancient Nile Valley and Africa. During times of conquest and after winning battles, the ancient Nubians were taken as slaves by the ancient Egyptians. The Garamantes, an ancient civilization based primarily in the southern region of Libya, relied heavily on slave labor from sub-Saharan Africa. They used slaves in their own communities to construct and maintain underground irrigation systems known to Berbers as fogara. Ancient Greek historian Herodotus recorded in the 5th century BC that the Garamantes enslaved cave-dwelling Ethiopians, known as troglodytes, chasing them with chariots. In the early Roman Empire, the city of Lepsis established a slave market to buy and sell slaves from the Bantu African interior. In the 5th century AD, Roman Carthage was trading in black slaves brought across the Sahara. The empire imposed customs tax on the trade of slaves. Black slaves seem to have been valued as household slaves for their exotic appearance. Some historians argue that the scale of slave trade in this period may have been higher than medieval times due to the high demand for slaves in the Roman Empire. However, the slave trade through the Sahara in antiquity may have been small and rare, as Saharan trade didn't reach large dimensions until the Arabs and Berbers introduced large numbers of camels into the desert. The trans-Saharan slave trade, established in antiquity, continued during the Middle Ages. Following the early 8th century conquest of North Africa, Arabs, Berbers, and other ethnic groups ventured into sub-Saharan Africa first, along the Nile Valley towards Nubia, and also across the Sahara towards West Africa. They were interested in the trans-Saharan trade, especially in slaves, as there was a constant demand for slaves in the Eastern Arab nations and Constantinople. The Muslim slave traders distinguished themselves from the peoples on the other side of the Sahara, referring to these African populations as Zanj or Sudan, meaning black. Arabs would routinely acquire slaves through violent raiding, followed by capturing them and sending them on dangerous forced marches across the Sahara to slave markets where they would be treated as chattel, which is personal property that can be bought and sold. In North Africa, the main slave markets were in Morocco, Algiers, Tripoli, and Cairo. Sales were held in public places such as souks. Aside from raiding, slaves could also be obtained by purchasing them from local black rulers. In addition, some would steal the children of the Zanj, luring them with dates and lead them from place to place, until they seize them, take them farther in the country, and transport them to their own countries. In 1353, the Berber explorer Ibn Battuta would record accompanying a trade caravan to Morocco, which carried 600 black female slaves who were to be used as domestic servants and concubines. When Battuta visited the ancient African kingdom of Mali, he recounted that the local inhabitants vied with each other in the number of slaves and servants they had, and was himself given a slave boy as a hospitality gift. The routes taken by slave caravans transporting slaves depended on their destination. Slaves headed to Egypt would be carried by boat down the Nile, and slaves headed to Arabia would be sent to ports on the Red Sea such as Suakin and Asab. Slaves headed to North Africa would have to take the Saharan trade routes, which had been in use since around 1000 BC. These include routes connecting modern-day Libya to Nigeria, the Tripoli-Fezzan-Bornu route, connecting Libya to areas of what are today Chad, Niger, and Cameroon, and the east-west route connecting Egypt to Ghana, Mali, and Songhai. Kanem-Bornu Zawila was another route to North Africa, as the Kanem-Bornu Empire in the eastern part of Niger was an active part of the trans-Saharan slave trade for centuries. and the trade formed the basis of the empire's prosperity. Passage through the Sahara required the expertise of ethnic groups whose lifestyles were uniquely adapted for survival in scorching, arid environments, namely the local Berber tribes and the foreign Bedouins from Arabia. For example, the Tuareg and others who are indigenous to Libya facilitated, taxed, and partly organized the trade from the south along the trans-Saharan trade routes. Various nomadic peoples played critical roles as guards, guides, and camel drivers. As a result, they were granted autonomy and treated as allies by governments of North Africa. Oases were vital way stations for caravans, and those such as Aujala, Gadames, and Kufra in Libya allowed both north-south and east-west travel. Even with expert help, the passage could still prove deadly to merchants and slaves. Sometimes whole caravans of thousands of people could disappear without a trace. Between AD 650 and 1600, an average of 5,000 Africans were shipped out by the Arabs. This makes a rough total of 7.25 million. Then, between 1600 and 1800, another 1.4 million Africans were shipped out by the Arabs. The 19th century represented the highest point of the Arabian trade, where 12,000 Africans were shipped out every year. The total figure for the 19th century alone was 1.2 million slaves to Arabia. Thus, in terms of numbers, Arabia's 9.85 million is not far behind the conservative estimate of nearly 12 million African victims of the Atlantic slave trade. Some African historians, though, reject these figures on the grounds that they are too low. They suggest over 50 million Africans were shipped out during the Atlantic trade alone. According to some researchers, another 4.1 million Africans were shipped across the Red Sea to the Persian Gulf and India. This trade also, with the notable exception of some Portuguese involvement in the area of Mozambique and of 18th and 19th century French exports to islands under their control in the Indian Ocean, was largely conducted by Muslims. Throughout the 19th century, the Omani Arab rulers of Zanzibar shipped hundreds of thousands of African slaves to work on clove plantations on the island. It was this trade that gave Europe and America so much satisfaction, after abolishing their own trade in African slaves, to highlight the wickedness of the Arab slavers, who continued to enslave Africans well into the first decades of the 20th century. Even to this day, Arab slavers are still at work in Sudan and Mauritania, buying and selling black Africans. Like the Atlantic trade, the Arabian trade's Middle Passage was equally as horrible and terrifying. The Middle Passage describes the harrowing journey lasting several months from Africa's west coast to the Americas, during which millions of Africans, packed like sardines in the slave ships, died of thirst, hunger, rough seas, and sometimes from the sheer brutality inflicted by the European slavers. In the Arabian trade, the trudge across the Sahara in leg and neck chains, and necks in large forked sticks and hands tied with bark thongs, was particularly harsh on the African slaves. The hardships of these long marches across the desert were considerable, and much later travelers reported that the routes were lined with the parched skeletons of those who succumbed to exhaustion and thirst along the way. The Arab slavers did not only march their African captives to Arabia, they also sometimes sold them to European slavers. Enterprising Arab merchants and middlemen would gather in Zanzibar for raw materials, including cloves and ivory. They would then buy black slaves who they would use to carry the raw materials and also work in their plantations abroad. Slaves from as far as Sudan, Ethiopia, and Somalia would be availed at the Zanzibar market and shipped through the Indian Ocean to the Persian Gulf or Arabic Peninsula, where they worked in Oman, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Iraq. African Muslims were, however, never captured as slaves due to the Islamic legal views, but this changed very quickly. On the other hand, the trans-Saharan caravan concentrated on the West African region, straddling the Niger Valley to the Gulf of Guinea, along the trans-Saharan roads to slave markets in Maghreb and the Nile Basin. The voyage, that could take up to 3 months, involved inhumane conditions that saw slaves die along the way due to diseases, hunger, and thirst. An estimated 50% of all slaves in this trade would die in transit. Other 19th century European explorers recorded their perilous experiences traveling through the Saharan desert alongside slave caravans. The explorer Gustav Nachtigall reported finding numerous bones at desert springs that had run dry. Nachtigall estimated that for every one slave that successfully arrived at the market, 3 or 4 had either died or escaped. Cold could also kill in the desert, as the explorer Heinrich Barth relayed a story that the Vizier of Bornu had lost slaves in a single night in Libya. A British account described 100 skeletons. In modern times, the popular image of African slavery springs from the vision of a tormented male suffering under the lash of unceasing labor on some New World sugar plantation. Yet the real face of servitude finds its focus in the forced migration of millions of girls and young women across the Sahara and the Horn of Africa into the institutions of Islamic concubinage. While in the European New World, the measure of a man's stature was mapped out and calibrated on the physical dimensions of empire built upon the sinews of forced masculine labor. In the Islamic Orient, wealth, however, it was a reflection of prestige, young girls, the vessel of male hubris. Thus, women slaves in the Arab world were often turned into concubines living in harems, and rarely as wives, their children becoming free. A large number of male slaves and young boys were castrated and turned into eunuchs who kept watch over the harems. Castration was a particularly brutal operation with a survival rate of only 10%. These eunuchs, who were around 7 times more expensive than non-castrated males, could also be used as administrators, tutor, secretaries, commercial agents, and even concubines. Due to strictures within Islamic law, slaves would not usually be castrated within Muslim territory and, therefore, would be castrated before being sent across the Sahara. Sometimes slaves were castrated after purchase in North African slave markets. While the Europeans paid a higher price for male slaves than females, the reverse was the case with the Arabs. Moreover, while the European slavers profited mainly from male labor, the Arabs saw profit in sexual satisfaction and reproductive potential. Slavery unquestionably checked population growth in Africa, and consequentially placed tremendous pressure upon gender and marital relationships during the Arab slave. In this sense, the feminine-oriented Arab slave trade, though neither motivated nor executed with economic benefits as prime objective, caused far greater demographic damage and consequently greater economic decline with its excessive poaching of the reproductive potential of the harvested areas. The Arabs raided sub-Saharan Africa for 13 centuries without interruption. Most of the millions of men they deported disappeared as a result of inhumane treatment. This painful page in the history of black people has apparently not been completely turned. In the Muslim culture of the Middle Ages, blackness became increasingly identified with slavery. This was justified by appeals to a specific interpretation of the biblical story of Curse of Ham, that posited Ham had been cursed by Noah in 2 ways. The first, the turning of his skin black, and the second, that his descendants would be doomed to slavery. Muslim slave traders would use this as a pretext to enslave blacks, including black Muslims. In the late 14th century, a black king of Bornu wrote a letter to the Sultan of Egypt complaining of the continual slave raids perpetrated by Arab tribesmen, which were devastating his lands and resulting in the mass enslavement of the black Muslim population of the region. In Al-Andalus, the area of medieval Iberia under Islamic control, black Muslims could be legally held as slaves. This all occurred despite the orthodox Muslim jurist position that no Muslim, regardless of race, could be enslaved. Even as late as the 19th century, many of the common people in Islamic society still believed that enslavement based on skin color, rather than based on religion, was approved by the religious laws of Islam. In Central Africa during the 16th and 17th centuries, slave traders continued to raid the region as part of the expansion of the Saharan and Nile River slave routes. Captives were enslaved and shipped to the Mediterranean coast, Europe, Arabia, the Western Hemisphere, or to the slave ports and factories along the West and North Africa coasts, or south, along the Ubangi and Congo rivers. Even though the slave trade was officially abolished in Tripoli in 1853, in practice, it continued until the 1890s. And even as Europe, one of the key players in the African slave trade, abolished the practice hundreds of years ago, and the United States officially ended it in 1865. Arab countries continued the trade, with majority ending it late in the 20th century. In Malawi, slavery was officially criminalized in 2007, with mentions of some Arab countries currently being involved, albeit clandestinely. By 1858, the British consul in Tripoli had recorded that more than 66% of the value shipped across the Sahara was made up by slaves. The British consul in Benghazi wrote in 1875 that the slave trade had reached an enormous scale and that the slaves who were sold in Alexandria and Constantinople had quadrupled in price. This trade, he wrote, was encouraged by the local government. By the mid-19th century, it's possible that nearly 10,000 slaves were being transported to North Africa yearly. After the establishment of the British and Foreign Anti-Slavery Society in 1839 to fight slave trading in the Mediterranean, Ahmad I ibn Mustafa, Bey of Tunis, agreed to outlaw exporting, importing, and selling slaves in 1842, and he made slavery illegal in 1846. In 1848, France outlawed slavery in Algeria. Slavery was not abolished in Mauritania until 1981. Since the beginning of the Libyan civil war of 2011, that saw the overthrow of Muammar Gaddafi's regime by NATO-backed anti-Gaddafi forces, Libya has been plagued by instability, and migrants with little cash and no papers have become vulnerable. Libya is a major exit point for African migrants heading to Europe. The International Organization for Migration, or IOM, published a report in April 2017 showing that many of the migrants from West Africa heading to Europe are sold as slaves after being detained by people smugglers or militia groups. African countries south of Libya were targeted for slave trading and transferred to Libyan slave markets instead. According to the victims, the price is higher for migrants with skills like painting and tiling. Slaves are often ransomed to their families, and in the meantime, until the ransom is paid, they can be tortured, forced to work, sometimes to death, and eventually executed or left to starve if they can't pay for too long. Women are often raped and used as sex slaves and sold to brothels and private Libyan clients. Many child migrants also suffer from abuse and child rape in Libya. After receiving unverified CNN video of a November 2017 slave auction in Libya, a human trafficker told Al Jazeera that hundreds of migrants are bought and sold across the country every week. There were other confirmed reports of slavery in Libya by Arabs in the 21st century. A Libyan group known as the Asma Boys have antagonized migrants from other parts of Africa from at least as early as 2000, destroying their property. Nigerian migrants in January 2018 gave accounts of abuses in detention centers, including being leased or sold as slaves. Videos of Sudanese migrants being burnt and whipped for ransom were released later on by their families on social media. In June 2018, the United Nations applied sanctions against 4 Libyans, including a Coast Guard commander and 2 Eritreans, for their criminal leadership of slave trade networks. Even as the rest of the world realized the harm slavery did to an entire continent and made a declaration to abolish it, the Arabs protested it, and it took a lot of international trade and revolt by the slaves for them to end it. Most of the African authors have not yet published a book on the Arab-Muslim slave trade out of religious solidarity. There are 500 million Muslims in Africa, and it is better to blame the West than talk about the past crimes of Arab Muslims. Looking back at history, you can tell of the horrors of the Arab slave trade, the millions that died on the journey through the desert, and the torture that waited for them once they reached their destination. What's surprising is that not many people talk about this part of history. It's like a secret that's not shared. But we need to know about it because it still affects people today. Shockingly, the echoes of this cruel past continue to reverberate in modern times. In some Arab countries in Africa, the legacy of slavery persists, with migrants looking for a better life being greeted with bondage and been shipped off to the highest bidder. We all need to work together to change this. We should learn about this hidden past and talk openly about it. By doing that, we can start to make things better. We have to teach others, be aware, and speak up so that no one is treated like a slave anymore. We must remember the people who suffered because of the Arab-Muslim slave trade. They were strong and didn't give up, even in tough times. By understanding this history and promising to end slavery everywhere, We show that we care about fairness, equality, and making the world a kinder place for everyone. As always, don't forget to
Keep listening to Black Focus Radio for more dynamic Black facts, our culture, our history, our people on JoyNet Radio.
And don't forget, if you would like to sponsor Dynamic Black Facts, give me a call at 615-554-0568. Bet you didn't know that, did you? Now, that's actually for my buddy Fahim Gunny, because over the years, and Fahim and I are really good friends, love him a lot. He sends me, I get a lot of good information from Fahim. We met in Nashville, Tennessee, by the way. Became friends there. He listened to one of my shows there. But over the years, when I would post things about the Arabs and the slave trade, he would rebuff that, which I knew better. And of course, as you heard in that piece, the slave trade continues by the Arabs in Africa. Just thought I'd throw that out there for you. Fahim. There's a reason why I'm playing this, because I don't want you to think that I can't say that. I tell you what, I'm going to ask you a question and then I'm going to answer it for you when I come back. Who or what is a Semite? So I'm going to leave that out there. We're going to talk about that later on in the show. We're also going to talk about hair relaxer when we come back. Something you sisters need to learn and understand real fast. This is nothing new, but it is new. We'll let you know about that, because I'm concerned about my sisters are dying to be beautiful. Back in a moment. You're listening to Black Focus Radio, our issues, our solutions, our voices on JoyNetRadio.com.
Bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah, at BreaRub.com. Holman's Dynamic Pepper Juice is lighting fires around the country. It's the new product from RibRub.com. Use it on meats and vegetables. Add it to your gumbos and greens for an extra punch. Made with all natural ingredients, Coleman's Dynamic Pepper Juice will enhance the flavors of your favorite recipes. Order today on RibRub.com. And while there, be sure to check out some of our other great products. It's developed with love and care using the best all-natural ingredients with no GMOs or preservatives. From snacks to seasonings, Coleman's Dynamic Products has something for everyone. Bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah, at BreaRub.com.
Dave for JoyNetRadio.com. I'm inviting all small businesses to contact me at 855-525-5683 and let JoyNet Radio set up an advertising package specifically designed with your business in mind. This is a great opportunity for small businesses to get your products on the air. Do you want to get the word out about a new business? JoyNet Radio is for you. Do you want to advertise your event or social gathering? JoyNet Radio is for you. Do you preach or teach? Do it right here on JoyNetRadio.com. Call me, Dynamic Dave, at 855-525-5683 or go to JoyNetRadio.com and review our great lineup of shows. Let's help each other and let's get your products in the hands of consumers across the country. Call me, Dynamic Dave, at JoyNetRadio.com at 855-525-5683. I'll talk to you soon.
Synergy Insurance Group is the small business that we need to turn everybody on to. Javita Nelson is the expert advisor and licensed in 20 states. Synergy Insurance Group has been offering personalized insurance services since 1997. Call Javita at 877-GO-LOVE-INS. She can help you with old-fashioned personal service. Synergy Insurance Group is the one that you want and need for affordable insurance, specializing in burial plans that will allow you and yours to personalize your final expenses. Check out Synergy Insurance Group on the web at synergyinsgroup.biz or talk to Javita at 877-GO-LOVE-INS.
The purpose of this commercial is to promote various insurance products. National producer numbers 1661510 and 7529748.
Hi, this is Alvin from Havivi's Durable Medical Equipment Company. Because of COVID, many of us have lost our jobs and are unable to feed our kids like we wish. If your child is underweight, 5 years of age or older, and on Medicaid, you may be able to get formula to help them regain their healthy weight. You will need a prescription from their primary care physician and give us a call and let us help. Our number is 501-663-1553. We are open 5 days a week from 9 to 5. Have your doctor fax your prescription to our fax line, which is 501-661-0738 today. Keeping your child healthy is our priority. That's Habibis, your durable medical equipment center. We are located 4317 East Broadway in North Little Rock. That number again is 663-1553. 663-1553.
Hey guys, this is David Ashley, Deacon David Ashley. I want to turn y'all on to the Deacon Days radio show. It's a praise project. We're going to be playing music from inspirational artists and gospel artists from all over the world, never ever heard of. And also we'll be interviewing and asking them very pertinent questions to why and how they came up with their music. Don't forget, the Deacon Days radio show, it's a praise project. Saturdays from 10 to 11 on joynetradio.com.
All right, welcome back to the show, Black Focus Radio, our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me if you'd like to join the show. I'd certainly love to have you. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. A lot of stuff to talk about today. I asked a couple of questions. What is a Semite? We'll get to that here in a little bit. But also, why are our sisters dying to be beautiful when they're already beautiful? I'm a little confused, and really, this goes back decades, if you're not aware of what I'm talking about, all right? It's really kind of scary. You know, it's always been in this world, and particularly in the Western world, that black people have been used as guinea pigs, or black people have been getting inferior products with little or no care with the after effects of how that affect black women or black people in general. And you're probably asking the question, David, well, what are you talking about? Well, you all remember the story that came out years ago where they did a study and the question was asked, why did young black girls reach puberty faster than white girls of the same age and in the same socioeconomic departments? In other words, black girls was reaching puberty and getting their periods 1.5 to 2 years earlier than a white girl who was in the same study group. Given their socioeconomic background, their poverty rates, they tried to even up all the statistics so that they could have a legitimate a legitimate study. And after going through all of the ramifications, the potential ramifications of what could cause this problem, they couldn't find an answer. So they began to talk to the people about diet. What were their habits? What were some of the things that they did growing up as a young girl? What they talked to mothers. And there was one thing that they discovered that black girls did that white girls didn't. You know what that was? They pressed their hair. They straightened their hair. And come to find out, when they looked at the ingredients of some of the hair products that black girls were using, that mothers were using on black girls, you know what they found? They found that some of those hair products, many of them, were laced with estrogen, extra estrogen. Also, placentas that's rich in estrogen. That's what they realized. That by doing so, now white girls didn't use these hair products. Black girls did. They discovered that the hair products that the mothers were putting on black girls was causing their girls to reach puberty, develop breasts, have their periods earlier than the same study group of white girls. Yeah. Y'all remember that story? I know. I mean, I do, because I talked a lot about it on one of my shows back. This had to be 10, 12 years ago. Had to be 10, 12 years ago. There were lawsuits, and, you can go back and look. The internet is a wonderful tool, as we're going to explain in the next hour, if you hadn't figured it out by now. But go look it up. So you're probably saying, well, Dave, why are you, what's the deal? Let me read another story to you now. Think about it from this perspective. If you grew up in the black community, and particularly if you were dating, the word fibroids was in your vocabulary. The word fibroid tumors, you heard about it all the time. I remember dating. I met a couple of women who were my girlfriends who had fibroid tumors. I know friends, women, black women, who have had the surgery to remove fibroid tumors. I know black women who got fibroid tumors so badly that they didn't have babies. And they've talked, I know sisters who they're straight vegetarians. They don't drink dairy products. They went through all these machinations of trying to make sure that they don't get fibroid tumors, or if they get them and they're removed, that they then will not get them again based on their diet. But apparently, late last week, there was a story that came out that there may be something else. Okay? And this is why I'm asking the question. Are black women dying to be beautiful? Because, see, I'm going to tell you like this, sisters. Y'all already beautiful, man. That's why everybody trying to look like y'all. Okay? That's why they trying to fatten their lips. That's why they trying to get bigger hips. That's why they trying to wear fake froze and put chemicals in their hair, or twist their hair up like it's their dreads, trying to lock it up. Y'all are already beautiful. Man, I was looking at some pictures the other day, and periodically on my wall, people will post old pictures of sisters from back in the day. Oh my God. Them women had froze. They were dressed nice. Oh my God. They were just so exquisite. I mean, looking at a black woman made you realize, man, whew, I am so thankful I'm black. I'm so thankful that I can date a black woman, that I can make love to a black woman. I still feel that way today. Ain't doing much dating these days, but I still feel that way today. So you all going through all these machinations of you black women putting on these fake eyelashes and all this makeup and all this fake hair. Y'all thinking that men are attracted to that. Sisters, we really aren't. You all don't know what that stuff is made out of or what it's made from. Here's a classic example. This is from NBC News. What black women should know about hair relaxers and their health. The damage chemical hair relaxers can have on a black woman is coming under intense scrutiny. Now, this is not an old article. This was just published October 18th of this year. Several landmark studies have been published in the last year highlighting the link between chemical hair relaxers, which break down proteins in hair to straighten it, and increased rates of uterine cancer. And last week, after pressure from Democratic Representative Ayanna Pressley of Massachusetts and Chantal Brown of Ohio, the Food and Drug Administration proposed a ban on hair smoothing and hair straightening products containing formaldehyde, an ingredient known to cause cancer. So wait a minute. Wait a minute. So formaldehyde is in hair relaxers, and the majority of the people who use hair relaxers are black women, and formaldehyde has been known to cause cancer. And you're putting it on your head. And you're letting it soak into your brain. You're letting it soak into your bloodstream. Because, yeah, if it's on your head, if it's in your hair, it's on your head. As more research continues to reveal potential dangers, hundreds of black people have filed lawsuits against big-name beauty and cosmetic retailers like L'Oreal and Revlon, blaming their chemical hair straighteners as causes of uterine cancer, fibroid tumors, and infertility. The latest research on the effects of hair relaxers was published October 10th, just 2 weeks ago. According to the Black Women's Health Study, postmenopausal black women who have used chemical hair relaxers more than twice a year or for more than 5 years have an increased risk of developing uterine cancer. In following 4,000, let me take that back. Let me get you the number correctly. 44,798 black women for up to 22 years. Man, this is an extensive study. And see, this is why I'm talking about this first, my sisters. Researchers have a higher rate of uterine cancer among postmenopausal black women who reported having used chemical hair relaxers for at least 10 years, regardless of the frequency. Better grasping black health and the factors that contribute to racial disparities in cancer was the intent behind the 20-year study. The idea here is that a renewed emphasis or attention to the potential dangers of these products, I hope, will spur policies and that will help reduce exposure in this population or even help us identify potentially safer alternatives to straightening hair, said Kimberly Bertram, the lead author of the study and associate professor of medicine at Boston University. Revealing the potential risk of hair relaxers, she said, can help spread awareness and encourage making safer choices. To Representative Pressley, oversight in these ingredients touches upon generational issues that black women have long grappled with. For generations, systematic racism and anti-black hair sentiment have forced black women to navigate the extreme politicization of hair. We've seen this play out in schools and in the workplace, where black folks have been criminalized, punished, or overlooked in personnel decisions just for how their hair grows on their head. As a result, black women have turned to straightening or relaxed hair as an attempt to advance socially and economically. But regardless of how we wear our hair, we should be able to show up in the world without putting our health at risk, and manufacturers should be prevented from making a profit at the expense of our health. That's Representative Ayanna Pressley. All I'm going to say, my sisters, Google is a wonderful tool. And y'all have got to start reading. Y'all have got to start paying attention. That's a 22-year study. That clearly says to me that something ain't right. And a lot of our women are getting cancer, dying from cancer, and it could be, according to this study, the hair relaxers you've used over the decades. You're dying to be beautiful. In fact, you're dying to be white beautiful, when your natural hair is what really turns a black man on. My sisters, my sisters, my sisters. I led with that story because it's just that important. To me, a father of a daughter, a black man, a lover of black women. We want you around. And you don't have to change anything about you, because when God created woman, it was you in all its beauty. We got to take a break. When we come back, we got to talk a little bit about the GOP clown show. David W. Coleman here for Coleman's Dynamic Rib Rub and Rib Nuts. Go to ribrub.com, that's RIBBRUBB.com right now, and stock up on the best dry marinades for baking, grilling, and smoking your favorite meats. 3 great flavors: hot and spicy, original, and scorching. Try them at your next cookout and you will shout, bake it, grill it, shake it, oh yeah! Only one place to get Coleman's Dynamic products. That's ribrub.com. Easy to order, and I'll ship direct to you or to friends and family anywhere in the United States. While on the site, be sure to check out other great items, especially the rib nuts. Who'd have thunk it? Peanuts sauteed in a barbecue marinade? That's just crazy good. Get them at ribrub.com right now, along with other great recipes. That's ribrub.com. If you don't like my rib rub or rib nuts, I'll give you money back. Do it today. That's Coleman's Dynamic Products at ribrub.com.
Dynamic Dave for JoinetRadio.com. I'm inviting all small businesses to contact me at 855-525-5683 and let Joinet Radio set up an advertising package specifically designed with your business in mind. This is a great opportunity for small businesses to get your products on the air. Do you want to get the word out about a new business? Joinet Radio is for you. Do you want to advertise your event or social gathering? Joinet Radio is for you. Do you preach or teach? Do it right here on JoinetRadio.com. Call me, Dynamic Dave, at 855-525-5683 or go to JoinetRadio.com and review our great lineup of shows. Let's help each other and let's get your products in the hands of consumers across the country. Call me, Dynamic Dave, at JoinetRadio.com at 855-525-5683. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, welcome back to the show. America, you should be applauding. You talk about stopping terrorists. Oh my gosh. Did you hear that we stopped a terrorist? Have y'all heard the story? Late Friday afternoon, the United States Republican Party stopped a terrorist. You know who that terrorist was or is? Because he's still around along with his cohorts. Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan has decided to pull out of the speaker's race, the nomination. Apparently they had a closed door vote. And he even got less votes for his speakership. Now, you might want to add, I didn't label him a terrorist. If one of his own colleagues labeled him a terrorist, his colleague was, guess who? John Boehner, someone that I wasn't a big fan of either, but still. If John Boehner is calling you a legislative terrorist, in all likelihood, you're a legislative terrorist. And you are a legislative terrorist. That's what's happening. So from what I understand is the latest vote that Jordan got was like, what was it? They said it was 86 people who voted for him. That's even less than what he originally got. Okay? He wasn't going to win the speakership. And it's still amazing to me that Republicans are trying to blame Democrats. Every time you see an interview where, it was the Democrats who sided with 8 radical Republicans to vote the speaker out. Why would they do anything to help y'all? It's like someone coming and robbing my house. Y'all remember the old Richard Pryor joke when he talked about the German Shepherd that he had? And the German Shepherd he thought he was a guard dog. Y'all remember that joke? And when he came home, he realized that his German Shepherd basically was showing the robber around the house, showing him where all the valuables were. That's what's going on with the Republican Party right now. Okay? That's what's going on with the Republican Party right now. I mean, it's amazing to me. So we go another week now, and we do not have a Speaker of the House. Another week. Okay? And where we're headed, I think now they got like 20 people whose name is in the hat now. Who could that be? Because all of them are terrorists. The Republicans, look, you can't trust them, man. You can't trust Republicans. Republicans, as I call them. I call them repugnants or Republicans, whatever you want to call them. They fit. They have no backbone. There's one thing to back your party and stand by what you all are trying to accomplish. But there's another thing when you just back deception and deceit. And maybe this is a move by the Republican Party to take back their party. Maybe it's a move. I don't know. But this is kind of crazy, man. These people, what's wrong with them? This is a clown show. Someone posted a meme on Facebook, and it was a drawing of the Congress, and everybody in there had on clown suits and masks. Because they're clowns, man. These people don't care anything about about the American people. The only people that they care about are the people that are paying their salaries, and I don't mean their $187,000 or whatever they're making now. I'm talking about the people that are buying stuff under the table. Part of the reason that they won't go against the gun lobby is because they're being paid off. We know that. We know that. So what's going on here? What is the problem here? You say you want to help Israel? You say you want to help you want to help Ukraine? Huh? I don't know. But if you thought the Democrats were going to help you, you were out of your mind. You're out of your mind. And for the first time, I'm not a Democrat. I can't say I don't have a dog in the hunt because whatever they do will affect me in the long run. But you know what? I'm pretty proud of the Democrats. They finally got a little gumption about themselves. They finally got a little backbone because the Republicans have been running roughshod over them. Now, I know Democrats win races, but man, the things that they've allowed the Republicans to say and do, including Donald Trump, part of the reason Donald Trump was elected to office is because Hillary Clinton would not fight. You wouldn't fight. And if you listen to anyone who, even if they are a loyal and staunch Democrat, they will tell you that Democrats get on their damn nerves because Democrats don't fight. They try to stay above ground. They're not going to wallow in the mud with the others. You know, at the end of the day, and see, this is the problem that Mike Pence has. People want to see what kind of backbone you got. You know, that doesn't necessarily mean you got to throw blows, but do you have some backbone? Are you willing to stand up? When your wife is talked about, Ted Cruz, don't you have to go out after the person that's talking about your wife? Don't you? That's what Democrats, that's what people want to see. Mike Pence has a problem. Mike Pence has no backbone at all. He is a slithery, nasty snail. He just goes where he's told. He does what he wants. He does what he's told. He doesn't care about the American people at all. He's proven that to you. And now he wants to be your president and wants to brag on the fact of what he and Donald Trump did? Dude, you were part of an administration who attempted to overthrow the United States of America. What part of that you don't get? And then you got to, and see, that's what I'm saying about Republicans. They don't care. He's got the unmitigated gall to run for president. What? And he's got, look, this guy wanted you dead. The guy's fans wanted you dead. And you've never come out and said anything, one terse word about the guy who wanted you dead? Oh, wow. These are some, if I wasn't on this show, I'd say something. I'd call them something else. But I'd definitely be calling them for what they need to be called. They are some despicable people. There are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. These guys are some despicable people. I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. But this is pathetic. This is a clown show. And they had the nerve to show you how bold they were to even consider Jim Jordan, a guy who he's been in Congress for 16 years and has never had a bill passed. Never had a bill passed. In 16 years, he's stealing money. He's stealing money from the American taxpayers, and he's certainly stealing money from his district. And I'm glad he's finally being exposed. And if you heard some of the speeches on the floor on the Democratic side, I'm loving it. Apparently, The Democrats are seeing the light. And I'm going to tell you, it's about damn time. We got to take the top of the hour break. When we come back, we got to get more on Podium Gate or Lectern Gate or whatever they're calling the gate these days. Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Are we not surprised that there's corruption in the Arkansas House? Are we not surprised? I know I'm not. I warned you all. You didn't want to listen to me. I hope you will now. We'll take a break. It's called Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices on joynetradio.com.
Bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah, at BreerBrub.com. Holman's Dynamic Pepper Juice is lighting fires around the country. It's the new product from ReerBrub.com. Use it on meats and vegetables. Add it to your gumbos and greens for an extra punch. Made with all natural ingredients, Coleman's Dynamic Pepper Juice will enhance the flavors of your favorite recipes. Order today on ReerBrub.com. And while there, be sure to check out some of our other great products. It's developed with love and care using the best all-natural ingredients with no GMOs or preservatives. From snacks to seasonings, Coleman's Dynamic Products has something for everyone. Bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah, at BreerBrub.com.
Dynamic Dave for joynetradio.com. I'm inviting all small businesses to contact me at 855-525-5683 and let Joynet Radio set up an advertising package specifically designed with your business in mind. This is a great opportunity for small businesses to get your products on the air. Do you want to get the word out about a new business? Joynet Radio is for you. Do you want to advertise your event or social gathering? Joynet Radio is for you. Do you preach or teach? Do it right here on joynetradio.com. Call me, Dynamic Dave, at 855-525-5683 or go to joynetradio.com and review our great lineup of shows. Let's help each other and let's get your products in the hands of consumers across the country. Call me, Dynamic Dave, at joynetradio.com at 855-525-5683. I'll talk to you soon.
The views and opinions expressed today on Black Focus Radio are not the views and opinions of the station, its management, or its advertisers. Now, let's get ready to focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind, where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our voices. Central Arkansas, surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman and Robert Webb.
All right, welcome back to the show, Black Focus Radio, our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me. If you'd like to join the show, another hour to go, a lot of stuff to talk about. Later on in the show, it's what we must do. That means what we meaning black people, what we must do to change our circumstances. Only we can do that. I hope y'all know that, right? Only we can do that. A lot of people have done a great job at dividing us. That old saying, divide and conquer. As you listen to that black fact earlier in the show about the Arab slave trade, 4.2 million Africans, and they're still doing it. Fahim, what you got to say about that? Anyway, this segment I want to talk a little bit about Podium Gate. And then we're going to do more on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, what I call the media and Israel. Your brainwashing and propaganda no longer works. And I'm going to tell you why it's not working. Okay? But first, I want to talk. We've been talking about this issue of Sarah Jethro Bodine Huckabee Sanders. I should know Jethrine. I don't know. Y'all get it, right? We've been talking about this issue. This story broke probably a little more than a month ago. Well, actually, it broke before a month ago because in September is when the crook in the governor's mansion decided that she was going to try to cover up. To show you how amateur she is, that special session was designed to try to cover up this $19,000 that somehow disappeared and ended up apparently going to some of her friends, or probably being able to helping her party with her friends in Paris. We've talked about the story. Gentleman from Blue Hog Report wanted to look into the travel of the governor. The governor claimed, and the state police claimed, that it would violate her safety protocols and all of this other garbage that they came up with to try to keep the Arkansas people from seeing how this new crooked governor was spending taxpayers' dollars. She went as far as to call a special session to try to put a kibosh on him getting this information. But lo and behold, the information has come out anyway, and it's not pretty. And some are alleging that Sarah Huckabee Jethro Bodine Sanders violated the law and may have committed wire fraud. Allegedly. You legal people, all I do is report. You legal people can break all of that down. But I find it fascinating that Sarah Huckabee Jethro Bodine Sanders, are y'all surprised that she's already been busted for being illegal, for doing something dirty? Now, let me just recap the story for you. This podium, as a matter of fact, let me do this. I'm going to just play a piece for you, okay? Y'all, hang on a minute. Hang on a minute. Because I think it'll be better encapsulated, because I've talked about it, and this is probably one of the best explanations. And this piece is about 6 minutes. I want you to hear it. I want you to hear it. This is from Indisputable by Dr. What is his name? Dr. Rashid Ritchie. Okay? We're gonna play this whole piece. Let me start with, she's at a press conference and she's asked the question. And, I love it when they get in trouble and you start questioning them. Anytime they start hiding behind the American people, there's a problem. Okay? I'm just going to let you know. Anytime they start hiding behind the American people, there's a problem. So just listen to this, and we'll come back here in a moment. Well, I guess I need to try to make sure it can play. Let's see here. Let me go here and make sure we're getting what we need here. Okay, there we go. Give me a moment. Let's let it connect. There we go. There we go. All right. I have all these gadgets, folks. I'm sorry. I'm gadget down. Okay. So we're going to play this piece. Let me get it to where I need it. Okay, here we go. We need to talk about this.
Gate.
Yeah, because I figure if I do, then you would talk about nothing else instead of the important actions that we're actually taking today, which unfortunately is not surprising that while we are focused on things that actually impact our state and impact Arkansans, the media wants to spend all of their time focused on things that frankly don't. Any other questions?
The Republican governor of Arkansas, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, has been accused of buying a $19,000 lectern with taxpayer money, and now she might be facing felony charges for doing so.
Let me stop right there. Remember, a lectern for $19,000. Now, the reason I want to play this piece is because something else came out of that. Just when they start talking about the lectern, listen to what they say. Just listen. Do
the audit. Do you plan to do an internal investigation in your administration?
I don't think it's necessary.
In case you don't know, a lectern is basically just a podium, and she allegedly spent $19,000 on one of these things. So I was curious, how much do these things normally go for, just for reference? So the most expensive one that I found when I was looking just very quickly, excluding any specialty or vintage items, was around $21,000, but that certainly wasn't the norm. That's the cost for a very high-end lectern that's, handmade and artisan crafted with real solid wood, etc. You can absolutely get a decent, well-made and functional lectern for a few $1,000s or even for a few $100s. It's just...
All right, let me stop right there. So you all have all seen those lecterns, those fancy ones, because if you've been to church, you've seen those lecterns. They have a scripture or something carved into them and everything. They got all this handmade carvings. Yeah, that's $20,000. Okay, but let's continue.
Something that you stand behind, and it has a little tabletop where you can put your papers. Today, Governor Sanders doesn't even use the lectern when she's addressing the public because she says the media is just way too preoccupied with it. She says that the media wants to distract her and her people from focusing on the things that really matter to Arkansans. But
now, wait a minute. You spend $20,000, well, $19,000, just short of $20,000. And you'll find out why it wasn't 20 here in a moment. But you spend $19,000 on a lectern and you don't even use it. So where's the lectern now? Did you give it to your brother-in-law? Is he using it now? Where is this $19,000 lectern that you needed to pay for with taxpayers' dollars, and now you're not using it, and the excuse you use is that, hey, if we use the lectern, y'all gonna focus on the lectern and not on what I'm trying to get accomplished. So is the lectern speaking? Yeah, I'm just asking. Let's continue.
it is a thing that matters to the people of her state, including her fellow Republicans, because despite her attempts to downplay the significance of the purchase, there's more to the story than just bad budgeting. So this all started when a blogger and attorney, Matt Campbell, made a Freedom of Information Act request back in June. Around the same time, Sanders and her friends, including Virginia Beckett, were on a girls' trip in Paris. Matt gets some of the documents he requested, and he noticed a line item of note. $19,000 was paid to Beckett Events, LLC. Virginia Beckett, who was in Paris with Sanders, that's her company. Her company charged Sanders $19,000 for a lectern, even though her company doesn't really deal with the sale of things like lecterns. When this was brought up...
Whoa, Nelly Bozo! So you paid $19,000 to somebody which is one of your friends. Let me be clear. You paid $19,000 of Arkansas taxpayers' money to somebody who was your friend that you became friends with in Washington, D.C. Okay. And you claim that you bought the lectern from her company, but they don't sell lecterns? Oh, there's more. This is getting juicier by the day. Here we go. There's more. Here we go.
To the Sanders camp, they posted a picture of the lectern in question, claiming that it was a custom Falcon podium. Those usually retail for around $7,500, but then Falcon came out and said, no, that's not one of our podiums. This was a fake Falcon that probably cost way less than $7,500. So why then did Sanders...
Oops. So you're saying apparently this company, Falcon Podiums, this big name company, you're saying that it was a Falcon podium. And then the manufacturer said, well, nope, that's not one of ours. That's a cheap knockoff. It ain't ours. Hello. And by the way, that podium would have cost about $7,500, not $19,000. So we still about $11,500 short. But let us continue the story.
Pay $19,000 taxpayer dollars to her friend's company, if not for the podium. We may never know, but we did see Sanders with her friends partying in Paris at around the same time this payment was made. You're free to draw whatever conclusions you want from that. Things started to heat up around the purchase, so in September, Sanders called a special legislative session in an attempt to change the Freedom of Information Act. She didn't want to turn over her Paris travel records or anything else that would have incriminated either her or her administration. To be clear, she was wanting less government transparency. But then we saw documents turn up, including an invoice from Beckett Events for the $19,000 Falcon podium. On the invoice, someone had written in the words, "to be reimbursed." The implication there was that the state GOP was going to reimburse Sanders and the taxpayers for the purchase. However, it later became clear through emails that were uncovered that the note was made after the purchase had been made public and that the note was intentionally not dated. The original intent was never for the purchase to be reimbursed or for the state GOP to be involved at all. And to that last point, that's likely the reason why the purchase was set to just $19,000 instead of, say, $20,000. In the state of Arkansas, purchases over $20,000 usually require approval. $19,000 doesn't. So now, in tampering with the document, the Sanders administration has committed a criminal offense. And in all of this, Sanders was complicit in committing wire fraud.
Y'all get that? She's complicit in committing wire fraud. Now, the question is, because we're about to see just how corrupt our Arkansas government is, because will the Attorney General seek to bring charges or at least launch an investigation into the alleged wire fraud by the governor of Arkansas? Because let's be clear, the Attorney General is a Republican. And I know one of my former co-hosts, Robert Webb, is a good friend of his. But that don't matter, bro. The question is, will he launch an investigation? Because clearly something is going on here. Somebody needs to be put under oath. Because if you don't put her under oath, she's going to lie to you. Because that woman is a liar. That woman is a proven liar. Not because I said it, but because she admitted to lying to the American people. If you'll sit up there on national TV as a spokesman for the president of the country and openly and blatantly lie to the American people, what makes you think she wouldn't lie to Arkansans who are yahoos? They just think she's just the best thing. I just love me some Sarah. All right, keep that up. I'm sure there's more to come in this crooked government administration of the Hucklebees. Back in a moment. You're listening to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices on joynetradio.com.
Dynamic Dynamic Dave for JoinetRadio.com. I'm inviting all small businesses to contact me at 855-525-5683 and let Joinet Radio set up an advertising package specifically designed with your business in mind. This is a great opportunity for small businesses to get your products on the air. Do you want to get the word out about a new business? Joinet Radio is for you. Do you want to advertise your event or social gathering? Joinet Radio is for you. Do you preach or teach? Do it right here on JoinetRadio.com. Call me, Dynamic Dave, at 855-525-5683 or go to JoinetRadio.com and review our great lineup of shows. Let's help each other and let's get your products in the hands of consumers across the country. Call me, Dynamic Dave, at JoinetRadio.com at 855-525-5683. I'll talk to you soon.
Synergy Insurance Group is the small business that we need to turn everybody on to. Javita Nelson is the expert advisor and licensed in 20 states. Synergy Insurance Group has been offering personalized insurance services since 1997. Call Javita at 877-GO-LOVE-INS. She can help you with old-fashioned personal service. Synergy Insurance Group is the one that you want and need for affordable insurance, specializing in burial plans that will allow you and yours to personalize your final expenses. Check out Synergy Insurance Group on the web at synergyinsgroup.biz or talk to Javita at 877-GO-LOVE-INS.
The purpose of this commercial is to promote various insurance products. National producer numbers 1661510 and 7529748.
Hi, this is Alvin from Havivi's Durable Medical Equipment Company. Because of COVID, many of us have lost our jobs and are unable to feed our kids like we wish. If your child is underweight, 5 years of age or older, and on Medicaid, you may be able to get formula to help them regain their healthy weight. You will need a prescription from their primary care physician and give us a call and let us help. Our number is 501-663-1553. We are open 5 days a week from 9 to 5. Have your doctor fax your prescription to our fax line, which is 501-661-0738 today. Keeping your child healthy is our priority. That's Habibis, your durable medical equipment center. We are located 4317 East Broadway in North Little Rock. That number again is 663-1553. 663-1553.
Hey guys, this is David Ashley, Deacon David Ashley. I want to turn y'all on to the Deacon Days radio show. It's a praise project. We're going to be playing music from inspirational artists and gospel artists from all over the world, never ever heard of. And also we'll be interviewing and asking them very pertinent questions to why and how they came up with their music. Don't forget, the Deacon Days radio show, it's a praise project. Saturdays from 10 to 11 on JoinetRadio.com.
Synergy Insurance.
Putin was targeting Ukrainian infrastructure. Heat, water, electricity, for children, for the elderly, for the sick. These are President Putin's new targets. He's hitting them hard. This brutalization of Ukraine's people is barbaric.
What Israel is doing is not retaliation. What Israel is doing is defending the lives of its people. And, as I said, trying to make sure that this cannot happen again. And I think any country faced with what Israel has suffered would likely do the same thing.
That was Secretary of State Blinken with the double standard of the year. Okay? Now, this segment is going to talk a little bit about this conflict that is still going on, that is not going to be solved anytime soon. But I want you to focus on the media. because I find it fascinating, and it's been this way for quite some time, that if you don't support Israel and what they're doing as far as what they're doing to the Palestinians, then you get ran off the air. Mark Lamont Hill was a classic example of that. Mark Lamont Hill a few years ago was a rising star on CNN. And he got ran off the air because he didn't even say it on his show on CNN. He didn't say it on anything related to his job. He just simply said that he supported the Palestinian cause. Because what's going on with the Palestinians is pathetic. And no one wants to talk about that. And you just heard Anthony Blinken say, hey, Putin is terrible. Putin is terrible because he's bombing women and children and homes and turning off the electricity and trying to keep people from being fed. We got to stop Putin. So you tell me what's the difference between Vladimir Putin and Benjamin Netanyahu? Because that's the exact same thing he's trying to do to the Palestinian people. I heard an Israeli ambassador earlier today talking about if the Palestinian people will give up Hamas, then we'll let them have food. We'll let them have well, they ain't gonna let them have much of anything else, but they claim they'll let them have food. Hello? This is what they're doing. And see, the reason I'm talking about this today is because the American media, and we've known this in the black community for decades, the American media is a piece of crap. And you know what has defeated them on this issue? So last week, I listened to Morning Joe just about every morning as I'm getting dressed and getting ready to leave for work. And I even listen in my car because I have satellite radio in my car. And on Morning Joe, all of the hosts, Mika Brzezinski, Joe, all of them, seem to be outraged that the American people had protest last weekend against Israel. Hello? They shouldn't be doing that. I mean, he went on a rant and he just couldn't believe it. In fact, there are some Ivy League schools who had wealthy Jewish contributors who are now having that money pulled from them because they stand with the Palestinian people. So in other words, if you don't agree with what the Israelis are doing, killing men, women, and children and grandmothers, the very same thing that they want us to be outraged about as to what Hamas did, they do every day. Don't get mad at me. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, if something happens that I'm not on the air over the next week, 2 weeks, you know that the Israelis got to somebody. I don't think that's going to happen. But I'm just letting you know that I'm just saying. They don't want you to talk about this. And see, people like Morning Joe, MSNBC, CNN, all of them have missed one critical thing. That quite a few of Americans no longer depend on you for their news. They listen to shows like this. They go to other outlets. They go to other countries like the BBC. I listen to the BBC, which is typically unvarnished. People aren't listening to y'all anymore. People are going and doing the research, and they know for a fact. I posted on my wall just the other day and I've told you all about these incidences, and they happen all the time. This is not an anomaly that a Palestinian family would come home and they witness the Israeli government soldiers throwing all of their belongings out in the street and telling them that this home no longer belongs to you. This is happening every day. This is apartheid. This is what our tax dollars are supporting, is apartheid. Not only are they supporting apartheid, but they're supporting men and women being bombed and children being bombed and killed with our bombs. And you wonder why people in the other parts of the world hate us. There's a double standard. That's why I wanted to play Anthony Blinken. I wanted to play that piece so you could hear the double standard. He's upset with Putin because Putin is bombing women and children in Ukraine. But he's not upset with Bibi Netanyahu, who is bombing women and children in Gaza and have been doing so for the last 20, 30 years. Don't get mad at me. Where's the lie? You see, here's what that group tries to do. Instead of facing the facts, you try to shut up anybody who would dare talk facts. See, what Putin did is called collective punishment. Oh, so we can't beat the army, so we just gonna go bomb the people who can't defend themselves. That's the exact same thing that Bibi Netanyahu is doing. And did you know what? It was a war crime. Y'all remember, let me see if I can find it. I meant to look it up in the break, and I apologize. But let's see. I'm just going to do this. Vietnam atrocities. Okay? Yeah. Y'all remember the My Lai massacre? Y'all may not remember this. Some of you all are too young. Okay? The My Lai massacres was a war crime committed by the United States Army personnel on 16th of March, 1968, involving the mass murder of unarmed civilians in Son Tum District, South Vietnam, during the Vietnam War. Between 347 and 504 civilians were killed by U.S. soldiers from Company C, 1st Battalion, 20th Infantry Regiment, and Company B, 4th Battalion, 3rd Infantry Regiment, 11th Brigade, 23rd Infantry Division. Victims included men, women, children, and infants. Some of the women were gagged, raped, and their bodies mutilated, and some soldiers mutilated and raped children who were as young as 12 years old. It is the largest publicized massacre of civilians by U.S. forces in the 20th century. And a lot of those soldiers went to jail. A lot of those soldiers were tried. Okay? Here it is. William Cayley was convicted. Premeditated murder, 22 counts. Sentenced life in prison. Commuted to 3 years house arrest by President Nixon. Hello? We frowned upon that in Vietnam. It was a stain on the American flag. How could good, decent American soldiers go in and massacre close to 500 people? Yet, we're allowing Israel to do the same thing. Those people in Gaza have no say-so in what's going on over there. They don't support Hamas. They're thinking that somebody's going to help them liberate themselves. Look, if someone is coming and taking your house, are you going to look to anybody who can help you? If someone says, hey, I'm going to help you, you're going to say, okay, come on, help me. Hello? but to be bombing the Palestinians. And folks, this has been going on for decades. And see, what the American media doesn't understand is that we don't have to listen to you anymore. We don't have to listen to your slant. That's why it's so preposterous that so many people are loyal to Fox News as opposed to going out and seeking the correct answers for themselves. They allow faux news to lie to them day in, day out, show on, show off. And they never decide to go out and look and read for themselves. That is one of the things that we've advocated since the beginning of this show, is a number of fact over fiction. Number one, facts over fiction. And don't believe what I say. Go research it for yourself. Okay? Go research. You saw what I did. I searched that live on air. The My Lai massacre in Vietnam. The same thing that happened that day in 1968 is happening every day in Palestine. Oh, I can't call it Palestine. Y'all want me to call it Israel. Well, you know, the before 1948, it was called Palestine. And there are no maps. Go do your history. No maps prior to 1948 that said, call that area Israel. That land is a biblical or a religious calling. That is our land. Those people are not even from that area. They are Ashkenazi Jews. But let me say one other thing here. Let's see how much time we got. We got time. Good. I asked the question earlier in the show. What is a Semite? Do y'all know? See, when you're not educated, this is what happens. You fall for anything. Just like when I started this conversation about my friend. She's book educated, but she's not educated on the world. So when you say pray for Israel, you don't realize that Israel is committing atrocities under the banner of the American people and your tax dollars. That's causing other countries and other people to hate us because of our hypocrisy. What's a Semite? A member of any of the peoples who speak or spoke a Semitic language, including in particular the Jews and the Arabs. Hello? Don't get mad at me. That's in the Oxford Language Dictionary. Now, wait a minute. You say, wait a minute. How can Arabs be Jews? Or how can Arabs be Semites? You see, you don't understand that all of those people in that area are Semites. So how can they be anti-Semitic? Because if they're anti-Semitic, then they're anti-themselves. Hello? We learning today, aren't we? See, this is what we do on Black Focus. This is what we do. Y'all understand there was Ham. If y'all are Bible scholars, I'm just a historian. I'm a broke man's historian. You had Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Remember those three? And if we follow the migration and the Bible and use it as a historical reference, and we follow the migration of those people, where did the children of Ham come from? The children of Ham were the original people, and they were black people. You see, that's why they wrote the Bible the way they did and said, hey, the children of Ham are cursed. No, the children of Ham were not cursed. That's one of the biggest lies out there. Okay? But let us continue. We'll get into that another day. Okay, there was Ham. We know black people came from Ham, according to the historical reference of the Bible. Japheth, Those people migrated to Europe. They came from, those are the Europeans. And then there's Shem, S-H-E-M. You know who those people are? Those people migrated to the Middle East, or Northern Africa, as we call it. Y'all call it the Middle East. Those are the Arabs. Whew. Wow. You didn't know that, did you? So for a Arab to be anti-Semitic, then he's anti his own people. But what have we been hearing for decades? Is that the Arabs are anti-Semitic. Now, let's be honest. There are some, like Hamas, who have said that they want to destroy all Jews. That's probably not going to happen, folks. And it's really ridiculous in this day and time that someone would want to do that. All right. At the end of the day, the Jews are here. They ain't going nowhere. Do we have to come up with a two-state solution? Yes, we do. But for a group to say that they want to destroy all Jews, that's no different from white supremacists saying they want to destroy all blacks. There's no difference. So what I'm saying to you is that we've been lied to. The media has, look, wait a minute, look who controls a lot of the media. We know for a fact, we've talked about this before as well. We know a lot of record executives are Jewish record executives. I can go back and find you stories where, this Jewish record executive wouldn't dare let his children, and he admits it, he wouldn't let his children listen to the same songs that he is producing and pumping into the black community. Hello? Don't get mad at me. I'm just talking facts here. Some people don't want you to be factual. Some people want you to see. What I try to get you all to do is use your minds. Don't sit back and just simply accept what people are telling you. That has been the downfall of black people from the beginning, is that we've simply sat back and allowed people to tell us one thing or another when it was not true. When it was not true. And we've got to get over that. We've got to stop that. The one thing that the internet is more than anything else is that it has empowered us to seek knowledge. It has empowered us to say, hey, I don't believe what you just said. I'm going to go research it for myself. It used to be when if you could see the books that I have in my home, in my library, I spent thousands of dollars doing research. And I'm not even considering the books that I use when I just simply went to the library and checked them out. Hundreds of hours. Hundreds of hours. When I wanted to decide whether I wanted to be Christian or Muslim, I went and did the research. I just didn't say, because my mama was a Christian, that I was going to be Christian. I didn't say I'm going to be Muslim because one of my dear friends was a Muslim. I'm going to be Muslim. I said, wait a minute, there's some conflicts here that I need to find out. Plus, I'm in the middle of trying to research the history of man. Who were the original men at the time? Were they black or were they white? Did we really come from nothing? I already had a premise. I already had a hypothesis. I knew to some extent what was, but I needed evidence. So I decided that I was going to do the research for myself. I was going to spend my money and do the research for myself. And the conclusion that I came with is that both religions, in fact, not just those two, but religions around the world were corrupt, had corrupted origins, and to some extent still continues to practice those corruptions today. You say no? Well, we know what Christians do in the name of Jesus. We know what Muslims do in the name of Allah. We know what Hindus do in the name of whomever their God is. We know what the Buddhists do in the name of their God. Control. Kill. To maintain the status quo. They all have done it. All of the major religions have done it. I'm simply saying to you, I was able to do that and find out that research for myself. And in part is why I worship the principles of Mott. But I learned all of that stuff, all of that, by doing research. And what I'm simply asking you to do, don't depend on the local media. Don't depend on the national media. Particularly if you are black, there is no way you should be depending on the media for your news at all. It is part of the problem that we have in the black community is because of the white media. It was the white media who perpetrated the stereotypes on the black community, on black children. And they continue to do so. It is the white media is the cause of why black men continue to get shot down in the street. Because they perpetrated and perpetuated the lies about black men. We see it every day. There was an 11-year-old boy that was shot last week. He called 911 trying to protect his mother because her new boyfriend or stepfather, whomever he was beating her up. The 11-year-old boy called 911. He ran out to the police, and the police shot him in the chest. Fortunately, he's living. Had a collapsed lung, 3 broken ribs. Because he was seen as a threat because he's a black child. He's black. It doesn't matter that he was 11. These are the stereotypes that the media as a whole has used to cause us pain in our communities. So why would you now begin to read and believe the media when it comes to anything, and especially when it comes to other people and other races? You shouldn't be doing that. Do your research. And I'm sorry, Joe Scarborough, but no, the American people are a lot smarter than what they used to be. Plus, now they can go and research for themselves. And I am so glad that people are speaking out for the Palestinians, because what is happening to those people? You notice how you notice how the Israelis refer to them? Listening to that Israeli ambassador, he called them animals. He was upset that on October 7th, men and women were killed. Women were killed. Children were killed. And when an interviewer asked him, well, what about the children that were being killed by Israeli bombs that were Palestinians? He referred to them as animals. They say it's okay to go and kill those children because they killed ours. Is that what we really want, America? Is that what we really want? This has to stop. It's time for American voices to stand up and say, we've had enough of American colonialism and imperialism. Because see, right now you talk about being fascist and you're talking about fascism. What the Israelis is doing right now is nothing more than fascism. Pure and simple. We'll take a break. When we come back is what we must do.
Bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah, at BriaBrub.com. Holman's Dynamic Pepper Juice is lighting fires around the country. It's the new product from RiaBrub.com. Use it on meats and vegetables. Add it to your gumbos and greens for an extra punch. Made with all natural ingredients, Coleman's Dynamic Pepper Juice will enhance the flavors of your favorite recipes. Order today on ribrub.com. And while there, be sure to check out some of our other great products. It's developed with love and care using the best all-natural ingredients with no GMOs or preservatives. From snacks to seasonings, Coleman's Dynamic Products has something for everyone. Bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah, at ribrub.com.
Insurance Group is the small business that we need to turn everybody on to. Javita Nelson is the expert advisor and licensed in 20 states. Synergy Insurance Group has been offering personalized insurance services since 1997. Call Javita at 877-GO-LOVE-INS. She can help you with old-fashioned personal service. Synergy Insurance Group is the one that you want and need for affordable insurance, specializing in burial plans that will allow you and yours to personalize your final expenses. Check out Synergy Insurance Group on the web at synergyinsgroup.biz or talk to Javita at 877-GO-LOVE-INS.
The purpose of this commercial is to promote various insurance products. National producer numbers 1661510 and 7529748.
Hi, this is Alvin from Havivi's Durable Medical Equipment Company. Because of COVID, many of us have lost our jobs and are unable to feed our kids like we wish. If your child is underweight, 5 years of age or older, and on Medicaid, you may be able to get formula to help them regain their healthy weight. You will need a prescription from their primary care physician and give us a call and let us help. Our number is 501-663-1553. We are open 5 days a week from 9 to 5. Have your doctor fax your prescription to our fax line, which is 501-661-0738 today. Keeping your child healthy is our priority. That's Habibi's, your durable medical equipment center. We are located 4317 East Broadway in North Little Rock. That number again is 663-1553. 663-1553.
Hey guys, this is David Ashley, Deacon David Ashley. I want to turn y'all on to the Deacon Days radio show. It's a praise project. We're going to be playing music from inspirational artists and gospel artists from all over the world, never ever heard of. And also we'll be interviewing and asking them very pertinent questions to why and how they came up with their music. Don't forget, the Deacon Days radio show, it's a praise project. Saturdays from 10 to 11 on joynetradio.com.
All right, welcome back to the show segment. All of my segments are my favorite, but this is probably by far my favorite because it means so much to me, and this is what I'm really dedicated about is the propagation and the success of the black community. That doesn't mean that if you're in a different community that I don't want your community to be successful, but I'm talking about the black community. It's kind of like Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. You don't hear that stupid crap anymore now, do you? You understand. It was nothing more than a racist rant to try to counter what Black Lives Matter was trying to accomplish. But before I move on, I want to read a definition for you. It's a far-right authoritarian ultra-nationalist political ideology and movement characterized by a dictatorial leader, centralized autocracy, militarism, forcible suppression of opposition, belief in a natural hierarchy, subordination of individual interest for the perceived good of the nation or race, and strong regimentation of society and the economy. That's fascism. And that's what the Israelis are doing in Palestine. And although the American government will say, we're trying to stop Putin because of fascism, we're trying to keep it from taking over the world, yet you are allowing and supporting a government under your wing to do the very thing that you're criticizing Putin about. That dog ain't gonna hunt. And what I'm saying to you is the American people are hip to this. This is what I mean by, folks, what we must do. We've got to start knowing ourselves, naming ourselves, controlling our dollars, controlling our interest, and not be so caught up in believing everything that we see. The white man's ice is colder. The white man's schools are better. How can you say that? How can you say a white man's school is better when we created learning? When I do my rites of passage camps for young people, one of the things that I do is ask them about math. Raise your hand if you like math. How many of y'all like math? Some of them do, the majority of them don't. And then I ask the question, who created math? Where did it come from? Some know. Some will take a guess. Oh, Africa. Yeah. So how can you tell me that you can't do math when it's in your DNA? And I know you can do math because you know what? You're a great athlete. And every day that you play, every time that you practice, every game that you play, you use math. And you don't even know it. You use geometry. If you're on defense, guess what? You realize that when you're pursuing a ball carrier, you can run him down by taking the correct pursuit angle. When you're on offense and you're a wide receiver, when you run out for a pass and the quarterback throws you the ball, he is using physics and angles and speed to get to the ball at a certain point on that field. You use math every day. You use it in basketball. You know you have to shoot a parabola in order for it to go into a goal. Hello? You know it's physics when you're dribbling the ball. That's physics. You use it every day. See, the media has taught you to believe that you are stupid. The media has taught you to believe that the only thing that you can do is athletics. They don't want you to use your brain. So what we have to do is teach our children to use their brains. You can use your brawn too. You can use it. Josh Dobbs is one of my favorites. Josh Dobbs is the starting quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals right now. But you know what Josh Dobbs is? He's an astrophysicist. He's an astrophysicist. The kid Roll, who was graduated from that was drafted by the Tennessee Titans, decided that he didn't want to be a head knocker. He wanted to figure out how to fix people's heads. So he got a scholarship to Cambridge. He became a Rhodes Scholar. And now he's a brain surgeon. You see, they don't want you to know that you can do something other than shoot, run, and tackle. They want to keep you dumb. Oh, one other point I want to make to you, young brothers, is that if I brought a game home right now, regardless of that game, and gave it to you, you'd have it beaten in less than an hour. Don't tell me. And you know what? Those games have physics. Those games have puzzles. You have to use your brain to figure out certain things. You will have it beaten in an hour. So what we must do is start teaching our children that they are bigger than what the white media has tried to portray them as. They are even bigger than what some black families who are ignorant have allowed for them to accept. We have to start making sure that the next generation is prepared to raise their children. Because what we're seeing right now, what we're seeing with this woman who's these images, these words and these lyrics, clearly we've missed a generation. And we've got to get that back. So what we must do more than anything else to control our dollars, to control our future, is more than anything else, we need to protect our children. And that's really, folks, the bottom line of it all. That's the bottom line of it all. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you'll spread the word about the show. We're going to post a video. We're going to try to sync this up right today. I've had some ideas of the best way to do this. And we're going to start posting our videos as well. It's called Black Focus Radio, folks. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. We're on Monday through Friday, noon to 2 p.m. on joynetradio.com. I hope y'all have a fantastic day, and we'll see you on the next show. Bye.
You've been listening to Black Focus, where we discuss our issues with our solutions and our voices. Join us every weekday afternoon at 1 p.m. on joynetradio.com.